Hey, Folk Studio here. So, fun fact, I actually have a different chair than I'm normally using. Normally I have a nice little spinny chair, but because of this chair is a little higher, and I can't adjust the height well, so I have to find a different way to position my microphone because now I'm just too high up. And if I talk from all the way up here, I actually don't reach it well enough. That's fun. Um, so, for today's daily, think about auto-attacking as a carry. What do you do? Do you go for the enemy carry? Do you go for the guy in front of you? Do you go what do you do? One of the big things I've seen people do is they will go for the enemy carry just no matter what. It could be the end of the world. It could be they've just started a fight. It could be the only person left, and they'll just go for that carry. Sometimes that's good. Sometimes that's bad. And you'll notice teams get criticized a lot for this. TSM got hit by this a few times, and you have to actually think about what happens. They said, oh, TSM focuses down Mundo. And what happens is Mundo will die, then the rest of the enemy team will come in and just clean up TSM. But when you're an AD carry, you actually kind of have to focus down the tanks first. Now, I'm not saying if you see a tank and you see an AD carry next to that tank and they're both within attack range, just go for that tank because you know what, you have to kill them. No, the problem is if there's someone like Singed or Mundo running at you, you can't really get by him. Like, how do you get by the Mundo? How do you get by that Singed? And how do you safely auto-attack someone squishy on the enemy team? You don't. You can't. They're not going to let you. So obviously, if you have a good team, you'll have some good peel. Maybe like a Blitzcrank pulls away the Mundo. The Janna knocks him back. Something like that can happen. That's generally what you want. But if there's just some tanky dude running at you, you have to kill him. And what happens in team fights, especially in games with more than one AD carry, what really ends up mattering is who burns down the tank line first, because then you're going to have one guy who's still kind of tanky alive, maybe, and he'll be rushing at the enemy carries. He will die, but if those ranged ADs are actually attacking the other ranged ADs first, they will win the exchange. And obviously, if they ignore the tanks actually do damage now. Back in the day, you'd be like, oh yeah, they got a Mumu. He does some damage, but not a lot. But now you look at like Mundo and Shyvana, and holy crap. That damage is so high. They do so much damage. They don't do 80 carry damage though, so that's the big thing. That's why they're not, well, I'm not going to say they're super balanced and not flavor of the month, but they're definitely good. But that's why they're not, the 80 carry. That's why I don't see Mundos carrying teams as an 80 carry. But anyhow, so you have to attack the tank line. You have to attack who's safe to attack. And you're going to see this happen in this game where they just kind of melt each other's tank lines, melt each other's front line. Morgana will die. Vladimir will die. People will just die really quickly, and then you have the AD carries attacking each other, and that's really when the fight gets decided with who gets those first auto attacks on each other. Anyhow, let's jump into the rest of this replay. Hope y'all enjoyed this little speech, and hopefully I can find a good way to position this. And we're back. So last we left off, they just gone ahead, gotten 3 kills mid, they took Dragon afterwards, and right now home team's looking very, very good. 18-14, but Graves is 8-1-4, which is totally insane. And we're going to start seeing a lot more pressure at Baron, a lot more team fighting, and just trying to do things with that advantage, which is always a good idea. And Baron, as normally, starts out with just teams warding it, one team going, man, I want to ward this, the other team going, okay, let's kind of ward it. And just ward, ward, ward. Now, things to watch out for as the home team is that the other team does have Ashe, so they have very good initiation. And when that arrow's up, if they get them in the right position, they can be punished. But the away team does something really cool. They go around to the back. And they take some guesses with warding. They know that some bushes aren't warded because of the oracles, but they just push them into this position, catch them by surprise, and split up the team. Sona's just completely on her own. So is Taric, but Taric's taking a lot when, honestly, it doesn't really matter if he takes a lot of damage. Oh no, Taric's dead. No one really cares. I'm sorry, Taric. The fight breaks out, and we actually see a bit of a split focus. So Kayle and Graves are on Nunu and Vladimir, as Ashe and Corki are on Udyr. Taric does go down to Vladimir's ult, and all of a sudden we have carry versus carry. And who wins that? The answer is whoever gets the first shot. They're both very low on HP, all the carries in this fight. So no one actually wants to fight unless they know they'll get the advantage in the first shot. That's what happens when you don't get the advantage of the first shot. I mean, Umashi had no HP. That was like 2 seconds, and he blew up and died. And still, it was a 1-for-1 exchange with Corki dying in the process. And that's how fights with carries go. They just both die instantly. If you see a carry fight a carry, and what is it vastly superior, or it's like, I don't know, a late game Twitch versus a late game Caitlyn, you're just going to see one person blow up instantly. And the other person will be right behind them too in HP. So Nunu did what most people naturally do when there's been a fight at Baron. They check to make sure the enemy team isn't doing Baron like on respawn. Unfortunately, there was good ward coverage from the home team. They saw him going in, and they picked him off, and they picked Baron. Ashe was in the bot lane. There was nothing she could really do once Nunu had died. It was just a signal for home team to just go ahead and do it. One person in the bot lane, Nunu dead. There's only 3 people who can contest. Go for that Baron. And now they're going to apply some pressure because this is what you do. They actually have a really good combination of CC. Zhonya actually misses her ult. I think she just freaked out. And they're going to take this tower. You'll notice though the replay in this video have quite a bit of time left, so the game does not end right here. Zhonya tries to initiate. He does get Vladimir. Everyone else kind of splits up. And now they're actually in a very odd position because they're caught between a tower and a long way to get out of this base. Zhonya actually uses his ult as Kayle ult hits him at the same time, so that's Kayle ult gone. And just massive poke coming out from the away team right now with that Ashe Corki combination. There's only 3 people alive, but those 3 people can kill them like crazy. Umashi's going to go down to Ashe ult, and the chase is on. So despite the fact that they have Baron, despite the fact that they were just dramatically hitting kills and gold and just global objectives right now with the tower and Baron advantage, right now, home team's actually in a lot of trouble. Now, that trouble is going to end the second people start respawning for them and they heal up, but for that brief instant, they could have actually lost a lot of ground. They could have gotten wiped had they actually just tried to fight the Corki Ashe combination. That's because, despite the fact that the enemy team is behind, most of the people on this team aren't building tankiness. They're not building a lot of survivability. Umashi's going to be going for AD carry. Mnemonic is going to go for an AD carry build. And aside from Udyr, who's going to build tanky, and Morgana, who's going to build Zhonya's, there's no real tankiness going out from the team. And Morgana building Zhonya's only for her ult, pretty much. So a lot of things can actually go wrong in these fights still. When you have a team composed of such a glass cannon nature, guess what? If they shoot the glass cannon first, you might die. And if you look at kills, there's a lot of kills on Graves, but there's a lot of kills on Ashe too, and Corki's not doing half bad himself. Now, right now we just kind of have a siege between the two teams. There's not the best wave clear from home team. They do have Corki missiles, they do have Vladimir. But they might lose a bit of HP in the tower, but not anything too significant. At the same time, I mean, Morgana, Kayle, and Graves are just going to melt any creeps that pop out of that lane. And Umashi does something very, very brave, and he makes an assumption. He assumes the enemy team doesn't have ward where he is. He's going to try and poke over that wall, but there's 2 problems with this. A, there might be a ward, and B, he's actually revealed every time he auto-attacks over that wall, similar to how you're revealed in a bush. That was a crit from Ashe, by the way. And with Umashi dead, the fight's on. We have Ashe chasing, and Ashe and Nunu combined can catch up to this team. We saw Shirley's get popped from Taric, but the chase is on, and SEC has 483 move speed right now. He has a Phantom Dancer and Nunu's buff on him, so they can actually catch him. As you can see, Morgana takes a ton of damage before she actually gets close enough to ult. Sex with Asian goes down, Mnemonic dies, and Etsu is the only person who survived for the team, but he actually runs and tries to push mid. The best option of all from anything he could have done. He could have gone back to base to defend the bot lane, he could have gone somewhere else, but frankly, he wasn't going to defend bot lane on his own, and he actually got 3 people to come back to the base, which was enough to not lose that bot tower, so very good job from Etsu. If you realize that you can't actually defend, go try and take something, try and apply some pressure, and see if the enemy will try to get you off. In that case, had they sent no one back, they would have lost the game actually. But instead they just took some tower damage and wasted some time. But as you can see, the away team isn't out of this game. That's something very, very important. Rarely are teams completely out. And with a composition that has Ashe, a good initiation can always end the game, especially before Quicksilver Sashes start getting bought. Now, that was not a good initiation. That was an Ashe ult that missed. But it does mean that the home team can now start fighting. With Ashe ult down, it means that, you know what, we can start a fight with what we want to. Nothing can really start a fight for the away team. I mean, what's going to happen? Nunu can run up? Zhonya can flash ult, actually. That's probably their best initiation. But Zhonya will immediately die afterwards, and it may not actually be enough, especially if the carries aren't in front to get hit by that, or the Quicksilver Sashes are up. So in this case, both teams are just kind of waiting for something. The initiation for home team is not very good themselves. They do have Morgana, but Morgana has to get close enough. And with Ashe and with Corki as these very mobile champions or slowing champions, it's going to be kind of tricky. And we actually have a fight starting with both teams kind of running into each other. That bush providing a lot of coverage, actually. So the binding just kind of goes through Ashe. There's actually a bit of a replay lag. Ends up hitting Corki. And we actually have lots of really, really good CCs coming out. Ult goes on to Morgana from Kayle. And who's left alive? The carries. They melted through the front line of that composition, but Corki survived, Vladimir survived, and Ashe survived long enough to get those kills. And why did that happen? Why were they surviving? Well, Ashe was far in the back, and she didn't get hit by that initial binding, so she had some extra mobility that Corki could not use himself. And why did she survive after that? Well, she has high range, too. 600 range is going to be farther than anything else on the home team. Kayle can't reach her, Graves can't reach her. So because of that, no one was actually able to stop Ashe, who's the biggest threat right now from the away team. And eventually, Morgana CCs landed, did a ton of damage, but she went down. And as the front line fell, guess who could keep fighting relatively safely? And that's something very, very important to remember about these compositions, that, okay, yeah, you do a lot of damage, but if they can hit you safely, it doesn't matter how much damage you do, because you just die beforehand. But can they come back from that? They totally can. I mean, they've been ahead most of this game. They have a really good initiation. They have really good CC compared to what the enemy team has if that Ashe ult misses. So they're looking for a good setup now. They're looking for a good situation where you're going to see Jungie, Black Shield, and Ashe ult, and then they can just fight immediately. If they just try and keep doing what they're doing, though, they're just going to have both front lines melt, and Corki Ashe outranges Kayle Graves. Now, there we go. The Ashe ult is wasted. Now is the time for Sex with Asian to use a stun, for Morgana to flash in an ult. Now is the time to do something. And very importantly, Kayle ult has to land on the right person. So we see Zhonya flash in ult. They do melt Sex with Asian. Etsu is in the enemy front line, but he's melting very quickly himself. At this point, Uder's not tanky enough to survive for long. The ult does land on him, though. And is it enough? Well, not quite. They ignore Etsu and just kill Jungie in the process. Hitman Han is actually trying to kite Etsu. Namotic is fighting a 1v2. Prediculous, can he kill him? Can he kill him? No, Corki can. And we have one survivor. Sorry, there's a bit of an FPS problem. I'm gonna have to clean this up a bit, but I mean, the fight's over, so there's not much to see. But what happened? Well, the front line just melted again, and we had the Corki Ashe just kind of in the back, doing the damage, and winning the fight. I mean, it's weird. It's not common. You don't expect that to happen, where it's just these carries with no HP surviving, but if a carry is alive, they're doing full damage. If they have a Malamortius, they're actually doing more, but you don't see that very often on carries. So, why did they start losing the fights? Well, the Kayle ult is being used early in the fight on Udyr. And while it's nice to use it on somebody who should be taking damage, the way they're fighting, Udyr's in a big group, they're all next to each other, they're all fighting next to each other. So Udyr can just be ignored for a second and you kill Morgana instead. So the Kayle ult isn't landing on the right time on the right people. If the Kayle ult was held onto and all of a sudden used the last second on Corki or on Kayle herself, they could win a fight. Actually, let's see how this fight goes. Gravel hits everybody. Etsu's in the middle of everybody, but he's melting fast. Zhonya gets a fantastic ult onto everybody. Just all the AoEs hitting everybody for both teams right now. Except the Vladimir ult. We're running into the same situation as last time. Who's going to win this fight? It's going to be home team. And why did they win it? The ult hit Mnemonic. Mnemonic and Umashi were able to survive long enough to get some more poke with their AoE on the enemy carries, and they're going to win the game with that. And that's it. That's game. This studio, I hope you enjoyed this daily. I'm just going to give a shout out. Reboot Mnemonic is on the team Reboot Gaming, a very cool team with very cool people. You should check them out if you see them. Aside from that, adios folks.